Hello comic book people, it's Comic Load Wednesday. Let's see what I got. First, all new, all different Avengers number 4. This was written by Mark Waid and illustrated by Mahmoud Asar. Jarvis is brought back and he's going to be the butler for the Avengers again. But that's not the focus of the book. The main focus is a mysterious villain that comes in and starts attacking Atlantic City. This issue in itself was somewhat of a contained story, but it seems as though it's leading up to something even bigger. And the team dynamics and how they're working together is being worked on somewhat. The cover of this issue does take place, but it wasn't really expected. Angela, Queen of Hel, number 4. This was written by Marguerite Bennett and illustrated by Kim Jacinto. We get to see some major action happening here. Angela has taken over Hel, or at least she's almost taken over Hel. The main story was told originally somewhat in a flashback, and she's fighting some pretty badass people in order to sustain her throne. I'm trying hard to like this story because, number 1, Angela is a lesbian character, or a bisexual, or maybe she's pansexual. They haven't really defined it, and they don't really need to either. But the story itself is somewhat confusing, especially for an outside person who's never really read too much on Angela. The action is pretty badass and the fighting is hardcore. I'll continue on reading, hoping that maybe the story will start to make a bit more sense as it goes along. Batman and Robin Eternal number 17. This was written by Scott Snyder and James Tynion. It was illustrated by Scott Eaton. The focus of this title is to introduce some of the other Bat characters that we haven't seen so far, and they keep hinting at a few different characters, such as Cassandra and Stephanie, also known as the neglected Batgirls, also known as Black Bat and Spoiler. Of course, that's not the main focus of this book. The main focus is more on the Bat family itself. There's a major storyline going through the entire title, and luckily a lot of this is focusing on Tim and Jason and Dick, not so much Damian, which I'm so happy about. And it's being told through flashbacks and present day stuff. It's sometimes somewhat confusing in a timey-wimey sense, but it is good and I am going to continue on reading it. Carnage number 4. This was written by Gary Conway and illustrated by Mike Perkins. Carnage is being hunted down by the FBI. They're being helped out by John Jameson, also known as the Man Wolf. He's also the son of J. Jonah Jameson. They're also being helped out by Eddie Brock, who no longer has the Venom symbiote. He now has the Toxin symbiote instead. It's an interesting story. We have seen a Venom versus Carnage story several times in the past, but this time it is slightly different. And it left off on a pretty huge cliffhanger. It's interesting to see how this is going to come out in the next issue. Daredevil number 3. This was written by Charles Soule and illustrated by Ron Garney. This is a really cool story. Matt Murdock and his alter ego Daredevil, they're both going after a new mafia guy by the name of Ten Fingers. And there's a lot more to him than what's on the surface. There's much more of a story to him that hasn't been developed yet. And I am liking how this is all unfolding. Daredevil also has a new protege by the name of Blind Spot. He hasn't been given a huge push yet, but he is a character that I'm watching pretty closely because I'm thinking that something else is going to be happening with him later on. Finally, I got Old Man Logan number 1. This was written by Jeff Lemire and it was illustrated by Andrea Sorrentino. The Old Man Logan storyline was an incredibly awesome story that came out. It has Logan where he's in the future and all of the superheroes had been killed off by all the supervillains that teamed up together. He was pretty much the last of the superheroes on the entire planet. He was trying to live his life peacefully where he wasn't getting involved in anything. The story has been revisited a couple times, including recently in the Secret War saga, which is affecting this comic book where he's being pushed back in time to being in present day, which is interesting because he's been part of another comic book series. So this story is somewhat late to the game about everything and the whole timeline of it. But whatever, we'll just kind of look the other way. Sometimes comic books are late when they come out with certain stories. This was incredibly awesome. I am really looking forward to finding out what he's going to be doing on his own. The real Wolverine from this timeline is dead. Or whatever, he's supposedly dead. Maybe he's not dead. I mean, we won't go into that. So seeing an older version of him where he's much more battle-worn and he has a new agenda on his list, it is pretty cool. I don't know how it's going to be played out, but I am definitely tuning in for the next issue. I got Jim and the Holograms number 11 and He-Man the Eternity War number 13, but I'll talk about those issues in completely different videos. They definitely warrant a video all on their own. But anyways, that's my comic load for this week. Did you buy any comic books? If you did, let me know what they are down below. I'm very interested. Anyways, thank you guys for watching me in this video, and I will join you in another one very soon. Peace. Oh yeah, I don't usually read Grayson, but occasionally here and there I will skim through. You should check it out, if anything, just because of the idea that we get to see Dick Grayson half naked all the time. That in itself is a reason to read it. I'm just saying.